Okay, well, welcome everyone. We are delighted to be here for our first session for the Mid-Atlantic region of NATS workshop conference. I'm Jill Terhaar Lewis, Mid-Atlantic region governor, and I'm very excited to be here with my friends and colleagues to talk about leadership in NATS and also just NATS in general and what is available to you as members and what we are excited about. So to kick things off, I think it would be good for us to introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about what position you're holding in NATS now, because we're all officers of some sort in the organization, and maybe a little bit about the job that you're doing. So let's start with DeMar. DeMar, will you introduce yourself, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Damar Neal. I am your current National Vice President for Workshops. And that is what I've been doing for the past 2 years. And I am in my second term of that office. I've served on the NATS Executive Board in North Carolina. For at least 8 years, I think is the right one, right? I did secretary, never treasurer, vice president, president, and I was a district governor. So did the full chain all the way up. So
in it for life, right, DeMar?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. So let's move to Robert Wells. Robert, will you just tell us a little bit about you and your job?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Robert Wells, and I am currently serving as the National Vice President for Auditions, which has sort of an umbrella position that either helps with or coordinates the NATS Artist Awards competition, the National Musical Theater competition, and then the National Student Auditions. So this is I'm actually finishing my second year of the 2-year term on the board. This is my second term on the board. I served as regional governor for our region for 2 terms. So it's been great to be back with some great colleagues on the board. And I similarly to DeMar went through the ranks in North Carolina. So served all those positions except district governor. I somehow bypassed that. But
well, there's a position opening. Something to be thinking about. Aspirations for you, Robert, obviously. Okay, let's go to our newest person here, but certainly not new to NATS. Let's talk to Randy. Randy, will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your history, too?
Sure. My name is Randy Umstead, and I am brand new to the Mid-Atlantic region. I was a member in the Texoma region for 15 years and just moved to South Carolina this fall. So in Texoma, I held a variety of positions like Robert and DeMar, and particularly like Robert, I did everything but district governor. So I'm the secretary treasurer elect for NATS, which means this is the 1-year gap where I'm not on the NATS board because I spent 2 terms as Texoma governor on the board. So this is my year of freedom. I'm judging for the first time in a very long time at the region level, and I'm enjoying that. So long history with the NATS, and I'm thrilled to be here in a new region, getting to know new folks.
Randy, we're so glad that you're here. I was super excited when I found out that you were moving to our state, you and your wife. So we are just blessed by you being here and part of our organization in the Mid-Atlantic region. As I said, I'm now the Mid-Atlantic region governor, but like many of these guys here, I also rose up through the ranks. I was secretary. I took over midterm for somebody in South Carolina and had served as secretary, vice president, president, district governor, and then that grew into region governor position. So, and this is my second term. I have 1 more year after this one. And I'm excited to say that we are going to be electing a region governor-elect very soon, so that we will have a region governor or know who the next one will be within, this year, so that person can be working alongside of us and getting trained as they go, because it's turned into a pretty big job over the years, and our region has grown so much and in size and scope. So I'm excited to have somebody else come on board to learn about this job, but also to help them be prepared for it as we move forward. One of the things that I've done as region governor is to prepare this workshop, and this year I had a committee helping me, thank goodness, because they are magnificent. Mark Greenewald, Jennifer Seeger, and Polly Baldridge have helped to select people to present for our workshop, which will be happening over this weekend next. And this is the first session of it. And I wanted to show you all some slides of what to expect coming up. So let me just share my screen here to give us some colorful pictures to be looking at. Sorry about my microphone here. Whoops, hold on, that's not working right here. Cancel. But anyway, I think I'm going to just put the links in the slide right here. I need to figure out some technical issues with regard to that. Or can you see that okay? Can you see the screen right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can, Jill.
Yeah, thank you. Smooth, smooth, so smooth. Okay, obviously we're the first category, and I couldn't be doing my job if I didn't also say to y'all that tonight is the deadline for the split categories. So anybody watching this, please make sure that you get your split categories in by midnight tonight, or 11:59 technically, so we don't get confused as to which midnight we are talking about. The next session that we have, though, is Terry Bickham and Jennifer Piazza-Pick will be talking about repertoire by women composers for early stage singers. And this is just such a great idea, because how many of us have been sitting in our studios wanting to work on new repertoire, especially underrepresented composers, but don't know it well enough to know levels of music. So she's going to be talking, they are going to be talking specifically about finding appropriate level repertoire for this, for your students. And then Tish Oni is going to be talking about jazz in the voice studio, and that's something I think we all want to learn more about jazz and other contemporary styles, but she's quite experienced as a teacher, so I'm excited to hear what she has to say. On Saturday, we have several sessions throughout the day, including these two, which we paired together because they both are covering important issues about mental health for singers. Dr. Serena Hill LaRoche is going to be talking about getting back after COVID and the mental and emotional steps to go through and ways to cope and deal with that stage fright that's probably going to be there when you are back into the swing of things after having such a long break off. And then Amber Nicole Dilger is going to be talking specifically about stage fright and how to overcome performance anxiety. After a break, we're going to go to learn more about healthy belting from our guest presenter, Dr. Wendy Leborgne. And I'm excited to hear what she has to say. She's an expert in her field, and we don't want to miss this presentation on Saturday. Sunday, we have something that's just for our NATS members only, which is a social hour on Zoom. Polly Baldridge and Melissa Chavez are working together to come up with fun things for us to be doing together as a way for our membership to socialize and interact with each other in fun, laughing ways, and also just to meet people and learn more about our NATS region. This is also the deadline date for the rest of the judging, which will happen at midnight that same evening on Sunday, March 13th. And then, all these midnight deadlines, we're going to talk about how being overworked and not getting enough sleep is going to be an issue. This is an area that we ignore so many times, and I shouldn't be laughing about it because it is such a real issue and important for us to just recognize things we need to know about what sleep deprivation does to you and your cognitive functioning. So Jessica Doyle Meeks is going to be telling us some very interesting stuff about this topic. And then Keely Phillips Carter is going to talk about flop musicals. So I can't wait to hear this one too, because that's going to be interesting to see what she's come up with, which all started with a TikTok challenge. So this should be an entertaining session for you to attend. We have selected master teachers and we'll be releasing the list of the program and the students who will be performing on our master class, which will go from 4 until just before the honors recital, which starts at 7 on Friday, March 18th. Followed by the honors recital for the musical theater and commercial music categories. And then we have a second honors recital at 11 on Saturday morning for the classical categories, which includes Halt Johnson category. And then that will be followed by a live workshop that's held at Duke University that we will have access to through live stream, where Magnificat is going to be talking about singing early music. So just wanted us to have an overview of the events that were coming up this weekend next, so that you can be prepared and mark your calendars for these events. Most of these will have Zoom links, which will be added to the workshop press, which I will put in the video links as well, so that you can find those quickly and get the Zoom links for them. The social hour, the Zoom link will be sent over email so that it's just the NATS members, and that will not be recorded. That will be a private social time, which will be fun for interaction. But anyway, we hope that you will take part in these and get involved. So enough about that for right now. Let's move to some other questions while we have these guys here to talk about things that they're doing in NATS. So when I'm asking people to help serve or be officers, people can think of all sorts of reasons that they're too busy and that it's hard to be involved. So this is a volunteer position. None of us are getting paid for what we're doing in this organization. I'm just wondering, why do you do what you do? Why do you volunteer? And many of you have done it. All of us, I think, have been doing it for several years. What do you get out of it that makes it worth your time? So anybody want to jump in?
Sure, I'm happy to sort of get that ball rolling. For me, it was at the invitation of some current officers in North Carolina shortly after I moved here, and I think one of the great benefits for me has been, serving at North Carolina and then serving at the regional level is as we talked a little bit ago, Jill. It's the networking, right? It's really getting to know colleagues across the state of North Carolina. It's getting to know colleagues and to work with colleagues who are in the region, getting important contacts, getting feedback from folks, really getting to know where people are, and learning new perspectives about things. Right? We tend to have get blinders on because we are so busy with what we do day to day, and to really have that fresh perspective from others who are doing exactly what we're doing, but maybe have some really interesting ideas and perspectives, and the creativity that is shared when we get together. It's been great. So I won't sugarcoat it. It's a lot of work, but it's gratifying work, and you get to work with some really phenomenal people.
I agree. And I think it's really satisfying to see the fruits of your labor too, to see something being completed. DeMar or Randy, anything to add to that, or did he pretty much cover it? DeMar, go ahead.
Now we go. Okay. I just wanted to say that I've sort of been a lifelong NATSer with my very first voice teacher. We did NATS when I was in high school, and I took lessons all throughout high school. So I was always aware of it. I did it in undergrad. I even did it at my graduate level schooling. And for me, it was a way to give back to the organization that has given a lot to me in my professional development as a student, but also as an academic. I do get professional development credits for being involved as I am. And what's been really amazing to me is to have seen the growth and the development of the organization administratively in terms of our offerings. That's one thing I know we're going to talk about today. There are so many things that you can do with NATS that you couldn't do 5 years ago. 3 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're worthwhile pursuits, and it's just, yeah, it's very fulfilling to be able to be a part of that growth and development.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Not only do I completely agree with everything that Robert and DeMar said, some of my best friendships have come from some of those long hours trying to make sure that everything happens on time or reasonably close to on time at a region conference when you're tabulating results, you're waiting for that one packet of ballots or whatnot. Those are the stories that you share with people for years. They're still the people that I've been in text contact with throughout the pandemic. And they're a small group of people who are the only people who can truly appreciate all of the challenges and the fun that comes with that work.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that many of you said that it was somebody asking you to be involved. And that's a good lesson for us, or reminder that we need to specifically be reaching out to people, because it can feel overwhelming to say, oh, yes, I want to be the leader and I will just come right in and do that. That's not natural for a lot of people, but there's a lot of yet to be identified leaders or people with leadership capabilities. And it doesn't have to be an all-in situation where the buck stops with only you. You can volunteer to be on a committee, or to do a special project, or come up with an idea and ask NATS officers, how can we make this happen? Or let's do a fundraiser concert for this particular scholarship opportunity for a NATS student. Those kinds of things are ways to dip your toes and to network and meet people too. And I think that it's given me lots of education as an administrator to work at this level, to be able to network with people beyond my little town that I'm living in, and even the state that I'm living in, but beyond our borders for the region, but also nationally. Like Randy said, lots of good friendships are formed through there. And then when you see, oh, this competition is coming up, who's involved with that? I know that person. I met them through NATS. And then you have an idea of what to expect or what to tell your students through that way. So it's a really great way to get connected in a network of some really great people. And I think that the people you meet that are in the leadership positions as volunteers have good hearts too. And that's something that's an extra level thing. It's not like we're getting giant CEO salaries or something to do these things. It's people who, like DeMar said, feel a need to give back to what we've been doing. So want people to be thinking about what can you do for your own organization to make it better, or to make it something that you are excited and thrilled about. I'm also wondering about any particular initiatives that you wonder, or that you wish people knew about that maybe they didn't know about. I'm on a couple of committees, and one is the Mentoring Initiative Committee, which I'll also share in the links to the videos at the end, but you can find it through a quick Google or quick search on the NATS webpage, which pairs mentor teachers with young teachers, and then they get an intensive experience together where they learn and grow with somebody giving them ideas or being a mentor to them. And that's a really deep commitment, I think, that those partnerships have created with them, and a way to re-energize your teaching skills, both for the mentor and the mentee, I think, too. So that's one of the programs that members could be involved in, of all ages, and levels of experience. I'm also on the NATS Advocacy Committee, and that's really rather new. And it's the reason we have special categories in our student auditions where we're highlighting underrepresented composers. So I want you to check out the Advocacy Initiative in NATS and see all of the ways that we're giving you resources to find underrepresented composers or organizations that will help a student from a certain group that maybe that you don't know a lot about, and gives you connections and resources to connect you with people to help you with that student of a particular need. NATS itself is also going through a diversity and inclusion initiative and we're being trained about that. So that's another special service that we get as officers or people working in NATS organization that's going to be open to our members as ways to be better trained about inclusion and diversity, not just for NATS, but for your other places where you work, ways that you can increase that too. So those are some things that I wish people knew more about. What are some things that you wish people knew more about or maybe are less known?
I can jump in real quickly.
Yeah.
So there's something called the NATS Live Learning Center that is a resource that has all sorts of sessions from previous conferences, video and audio recordings of those. It has old NATS Journal of Singing articles. So if there's some topic that is particularly interesting to you, you can quickly search for certain key terms and get tons of resources. And it's available to all NATS members. And so when people sometimes encounter reasons why they can't attend a national conference, because that's the thing I hear from time to time, is that it's cost prohibitive. That's a way sometimes to benefit from some of the things that were at the conference without the expense of going.
Excellent. Anyone else have something to?
Sure. Well, I'll sort of jump in on that sort of in a similar vein. I think one of the new initiatives that I'm particularly excited about that is come about through our development committee and our development director, Bob Bryan, and is the focus this year on student access to, particularly to student auditions, and that there are some really wonderful initiatives happening in terms of raising funds that will provide funding for students who might otherwise not be able to participate in student auditions. And I think it's in its infancy, but already starting to see some really great support and some great grassroots things coming up around the country. And I think in that regard, one of the things that I was thinking as listening to Randy and DeMar speak about, some of the other things that they find gratifying about being officers. And I think for me, part of that is being involved in some of the things that have gone on in NATS in the last decade and some of the changes and things. And really seeing ideas that have come from the grassroots, from the membership, and see how they have manifested in very successful ways and very unique ways, and sort of have been been brought to fruition first at the local level, and then at the regional level and beyond, and sort of connected to this idea of student access to auditions. Randy, you probably can maybe know a little bit more about this having come from Texoma, but the Texoma region has an initiative now for doing some fundraising to provide access to students for lessons, right? To actually be able to get that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to study with a NATS teacher. And that's where the gatekeeping happens, right? So just being able to get some financial support to work with a NATS teacher, which gives those students then access to all kinds of other opportunities that happen with NATS. And so those kinds of things that are happening, I think we need to celebrate those much, much more.
I will just add that when we're coming on, I think, our 2-year anniversary of lockdown time, when the pandemic hit. And that was the week of my first Mid-Atlantic region conference. And we had all these plans to be in person, and figured it out. We sorted it out, moved online, and now we're in our third region audition that's online. But I am just stunned with all of the resources that NATS immediately jumped in with in order to help teachers who were stuck in the pandemic. There's all sorts of Facebook groups and things that have spun out from this, like NATS on Zoom and NATS on SoundCloud and all of these other digital sources for people to have a community to be organized with, but also to get advice from people of how to solve this problem and that problem, and to share knowledge in order to help people to create content for their classes where they suddenly had zero content because of the inability to gather together in person. So I just think that was well worth being a member of NATS easily for all of these years, just that year, being able to have things available to us and met a lot of people through that shared hardship that we've been going through for these last years. Yeah, DeMar, go ahead.
And I was just going to say that, as NATS members, obviously we have students. I think people don't often take advantage enough of the fact that there are so many ways for your students to get involved beyond just showing up for the auditions and the feedback and maybe a check and thank you, see you, bye. There are myriad ways that, and I wish I would have known about this. If you're looking for, again, to put more things on your resume, professional development opportunities, or just skill acquisition at the, high school, undergraduate, I mean, even younger and even older than that. But I think there deserve to be more students involved in NATS. And whether there's a NATS student chapter or whether that's making them aware of some of the things that are geared specifically to students, that's one thing that I don't think people do enough of.
Excellent point. Well, I was also wondering, DeMar, did you share what you have done in your workshops as chair of workshops? Are you in your second year now? I can't remember what.
Yes, that's right. So this particular position, it's a 2-year position, and typically I handle 3 workshops in a 2-year period. They are semi-annual, however you'd like to say that. There's usually a winter one and a summer one. It does depend on the year, but that's open for members and obviously students and members. We do have students that participate in them. Our most recent one was in Manhattan School of Music, and we had an abundance of students because we had an abundance of master classes, and they got to work with some really high quality clinicians, things that you'd have to pay hundreds of dollars for a 15-minute consult, and they're getting that as part of their experience.
Excellent. Yeah. And Robert, I think you talked about what you do with the auditions and the organizations. Anything you want to add to that job, or maybe something that surprised you about that job, or that was interesting to say? Many things. Maybe that's a loaded question.
No, I think one of the other things that comes with the position is working with the there are a couple of committees that the Vice President for Auditions works with pretty regularly, and one is the National Student Auditions Committee, which in true organizational structure has numerous other subcommittees and advisory committees that deal with lots of things having to do with national student auditions. And I think one of the bigger initiatives of this past year for the NSA committee has been editing and streamlining some of the documentation. And so getting the language consistent in our rubrics, getting the category descriptions sort of cleaned up, and getting the language in our guidelines taken care of. And we're very excited about the resources on the website that are available now, including particularly for commercial music and musical theater styles, now audio samples, so that you can hear examples of what are we looking for if we're looking for country or R&B or musical theater, varying kinds of musical theater styles. And so those audio clips for people who may have a little bit less experience or a little bit less comfort in listening and adjudicating, those resources are available. And so we're really happy and really grateful to the committee members who put a ton of hours in preparing those and organizing all of that. So that's the other aspect of that.
Excellent. Yeah, lots of things are involved with that and coming up from the ground up. Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, but Texoma's been doing contemporary music for several years, right? Is that, or it's not been Texoma?
No, they've been doing virtual music theater auditions.
Music theater auditions. Okay. Yeah, we had contemporary or commercial music for the first time at our region conference this year. This is the first year we've included it. And North Carolina's been big in hosting those and had them in several different categories, I believe. And now NATS has expanded the amount of categories. But I just remember when I joined NATS way back in 2000, I think was when I started. That was a long time ago, ancient days. But that would have been unheard of. And now we are at this point where we're incorporating all sorts of different genres of music in categories. And it's really good to see the revival of things and the more inclusiveness and open door that we're doing here. Any?
Yeah, and I'll just, if I can follow up a little bit with that,
Yes, please,
Jill.
please.
I'm excited that our region is doing commercial music at the region level. There are a couple of regions nationally that have been doing commercial music at region auditions, and this is a perfect example, right? At the local level, there's a real interest in doing more commercial music and having commercial music represented in our auditions. And so as more regions start to include commercial music at the region level, the next step then is to have those categories then at the national level for the national semifinals and the finals. So this is how this whole process works, and really comes from the ground up.
Yeah, no, I was just going to piggyback and say, when the NATS board has had conversations on commercial music, that has been one of the explanations for why we need things to rise up from the grassroots level, because what we can't really do is just announce, here's a new category we're adding, without knowing that there's robust support from it in various regions. The other thing that I would say, now being a person who has a foot in two different regions, one of the things that surprised me a little bit was just how different some of the things that are concerns or interests are across the nation. They can vary wildly by region, because interestingly enough, I don't think we ever had a single conversation about commercial music at Texoma. The conversation we had was, how could we increase musical theater's footprint? Because logistically, we couldn't actually do those auditions live at the same time we were doing the classical auditions, because we almost couldn't find facilities to absorb the classical auditions. So commercial music wasn't even on our radar, but I know in some other regions, it's a hugely important issue that people care very greatly about.
Yeah, I'm sure that is very interesting across the country, what people are focusing on in different regions too. I think that it's really important that NATS is supportive of teachers who are working in this style. And like you were talking about gatekeeping before, this is one of the ways that gatekeeping occurs sometimes, is not being inclusive about or open to learning from other teachers or other methods of learning that aren't always academically rooted in this. So that's something new, definitely, with NATS in particular. And I'm glad, and I think it's a move in the right direction for us to grow and to continue to have an impact on what singing is being done in our country and across the, around the world, I would say, as well. Well, let's see. I don't think we have any questions for us. Is there anybody who has anything additional that they want to add or comment, or questions for each other? Yeah, DeMar.
I just want to say to anyone that watches this now or watches it later, please don't wait to send any one of us an email. If you have a suggestion, if you have a complaint, if you have an idea, if you have anything, so much of what we're able to do, again, is because we hear ideas coming from y'all. I say this as a national vice president of workshops. If there's something that you think is missing, that you think is really cool, that I haven't thought of, or there's a face that you haven't seen up there, or there's faces that you see too often up there, I need to have that feedback, because it helps me plan better events for all of you. And we do have a cool one coming up. I think our next one's going to be about, it's going to be technology in the studio, but it's going to be pretty open in terms of everything from websites, social media, scientifically oriented programs that you can use, really trying to put some stuff on the cutting edge. But again, if there's something you want to see, please touch base with any one of us. If we don't know, we're going to find somebody who does, and we'll make sure that your concerns are heard and your ideas are integrated as much as we can.
Yeah, and what I'll add quickly is there are some ways in which some of the board positions naturally appear to be resources. For example, when people have questions, they're always going to go to the vice president of auditions about does this piece count as this, or things of that nature. But secretary treasurer, I think, probably doesn't naturally seem so much like a resource. It's more a record keeping position in some ways. But one thing I will offer is that I have been a treasurer at the chapter and region level as well. And so I don't start until after the conference in July. But once I'm in office, I hope people will feel free to see me as a resource if you have chapters that are thinking about revising processes, or what are processes that other chapters and regions follow in other parts of the country. I'm happy to assist in any way that I can.
And I'll add one other little quick thing too, if I could, is that I would just encourage those of you who might be watching this now or later, who are among our independent teacher population, to not hesitate to step forward and offer to maybe be in a leadership position. I think we hear your voices, but we would love to hear them and see your faces in more leadership positions. And we often hear and see that our leadership sometimes tends to be a little bit on the swayed to the academic side in terms of academic faculty, and there are lots of logistical and practical reasons why that sometimes happens. But I would just encourage you, if you are an independent teacher and you'd like to be more involved, to toss your hat in the ring.
Yes, and I would say if you have the means to do so, to contribute to our development funding, because when we reach a certain level, we will be able to do more wish granting kinds of things for people that don't have easy access. Because, I mean, these things don't happen for free. There are services and goods and things that have to be purchased in order to have these events, but it's important for us to recognize that if you can chip in even just a little bit can really mean a lot. And consider, for example, one of the things South Carolina is doing at the state level is that they have some special awards for their auditions to highlight pianists, and they highlight a special pianist every year, and the pianist auditions are shown on our YouTube page and also shared on Facebook, so we get to know all of the pianists, and then one is selected as the overall winner for that year because we have money earmarked for that special award, which is so important to recognize what our pianists are doing. And we also have been spotlighting whatever the theme of the auditions are, giving awards for the best performance of a piece by a woman composer when we did that theme of the last 2 years. And this year it's Black composers, and highlighting that, and not just the winner, but all of the auditions also were shared online too. And I hope we continue to do things like that. So if you want to see something change or something to get more attention, pool your resources. See if you can find 5 friends who can each donate $10, and you've got a $50 prize to do something for an award at a national competition, or $100 each, and then maybe you can feed it into another situation in order to make it on a bigger scale for other people to contribute to. We're here to help with that too, and I hope that our listeners, whenever we listen to this, and after we've done all of our other chores and things that we have to do, that if you have an idea that you need help realizing, see what NATS can do to help you to do that, because I'm sure we can help connect you with people or find ways to make that possible. I don't think we have any questions here today now, but as DeMar mentioned, all of us are available for questions. And unless we have any other final thoughts, I just want to thank you guys for coming in for this session. And I learned a lot, and I'm glad we were able to meet together to talk like this, and think we should do it again sometime. So thank you very much, everyone.